From the ear-tingling rumor to the signs indicative of the potent growing film industry and the making of a box office king, we are covering all the movie stories from the Hollywood studios to the shores of Africa. Welcome to the Film Mandate, where I bring to you movie news, reviews, and reactions, both from the African front and the international scene. And welcome, and thanks for joining me for this episode. So, in the very first story, we'll be covering the potent rumor of the horror king, Jordan Peele, potentially taking on the Marvel Cinematic Universe Moon Knight. And that is quite an interesting story to hear, considering the fact that last year it was rumored that Jordan Peele met with Marvel for a mystery movie to be directed. So we'll be delving into that story. And also, we'll be moving on to another interesting report that has been compiled by none other than GH Movie Freak as to all the Ghanaian films that actually screened over the entire year of 2025. And that is quite an awesome list and quite a good job done by Tony and Sakuma, one of Ghana's, highly or coveted movie critic, if I should put it that way. And also, last but not the least, we'll be taking a look at none other than Timothée Chalamet for being a office king in the making in his own right. And we'll be taking a look as to why that indeed is the case. So, welcome and thanks for joining me for this very first episode, uh, this very potentially last episode of the year. Hopefully, I'll be doing one more tomorrow before the year comes to an end. So let's delve into the stories right away. So, it's been quite a number of years since we heard that Blade, would be actually, hitting the cinema soon. We had the introduction of Mahershala Ali, who was introduced on stage during one of the San Diego Comic Cons, and obviously with his introduction, a lot of us fans were hopeful that finally we're going to have the darker side of the MCU. We've had a little bit of that due to the presence of Stephen Strange in Doctor Strange, played by Benedict Cumberbatch. But what we haven't had entirely was the full indication of the Midnight Suns crew being introduced into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. However, we did have glimpses of it over the period of time, starting from, I think, particularly from the lockdown season into the post-pandemic era, where we had Werewolf by Night. We also had the introduction of the some characters that all indicated that Marvel is potentially building towards that end. Well, till the time we had the Moon Knight, we were all excited and happy that that indeed will be the case, where finally we get to see the Midnight Suns crew introduced in its full glory. And unfortunately, it hit a little bit of a road bump. But last year had us all excited, particularly Marvel fans, as we were all excited to hear that Jordan Peele, in particular, has met with the what's it called, Marvel Studios, and that was actually reported last year by Jeff Snyder, but he didn't name the movie for which Jordan Peele might have met Marvel Studios for. Well, there's an article that have been published quite, very recently, maybe even, I think today is even the date, that Jordan Peele's movie, the potential movie that he may be helming, is none other than Moon Knight. Let's take a quick look at the article that gives us much more information for this purpose. So let's take a quick look. And it reads that we want Oscar Isaac's Moon Knight movie directed by Jordan Peele, Marvel's reported plan, and what it means. Rumors point to horror master Jordan Peele directing a movie for Marvel Studios. Will we finally get Oscar Isaac's Moon Knight through him? And that's a split screenshot of both Oscar Isaac playing the titular character Moon Knight and Jordan Peele in the director's chair. I mean, I think for an interview. So that is quite a happy moment. So let me read the entire article. I don't know whether the okay. So let me just highlight the text since it's not showing clearly. So it goes on to say that according to insider Daniel Rickman, via Patreon, Marvel Studios is eyeing Get Out director Jordan Peele to direct a movie for them. Since there is no official confirmation about the same, we cannot say which movie Peele could helm for the superhero universe. A year ago, insider Jack Snyder stated on the Hot Mic podcast that Peele had taken a meeting with Marvel about directing one of their future projects. Snyder didn't reveal the title of the reported film either. So this is what he had to say. That is Snyder. He went on to say in a post in X saying that if I get 100 new subs by morning, I'll tell all of you what Marvel movie Peele met on tomorrow night. I work for you. Don't you get that? I try to treat Marvel with respect, but I don't work for them. No one allows me to do anything. I have the power back. We stupidly gave it away. Well, that is quite interesting. So it is indeed an exciting rumor, I must say, and as to whether the movie which Daniel Rickman, who is the scooper that has broken this, is the same as what the Jeff Snyder had some time back. That would be quite interesting to see. But obviously, we all know that the genre that what's it called? The genre that Jordan Peele dabbles in mainly is the horror or thriller genre. And from the films that he's directed personally, that is Get Out, S, and Nope, and the ones that he's been part of the producing or production, it's Monkey is a Monkey Man, Candyman, and then the recent one that starred Marlon Wayans, him. And unfortunately, some of them have not performed well. But for his films, definitely kind of detached when it comes to how expertly he wrote the script and directed them to such rousing success at the box office, chart. And even though Nope didn't perform as mightily as Get Out and S did, indeed, he is still a powerhouse when it comes to how critically acclaimed his movies are. So it is actually quite exciting to hear that he's met with Marvel as to the exact nature of the films that he'll be directing. That we do not know. But one thing we know for sure it's that it's going to be a thriller, one of the dark, corners, one of the characters belonging to the dark corners of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And obviously, Marvel has been teasing over the years the direction in which they may be going. They've done it all from heroes fighting, anti-heroes or villains, to superpowered human beings, to even gods, and all the aliens and all that. So they've done it all. Then now perhaps it's more of the time of heading into the dark, corners of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, of which Doctor Strange seems to have been the leading frontman for that universe. Having watched, all the films that he's been part of, they definitely it points to all the indications that Marvel wants to head in that arena, and particularly what we saw of the what's it called, Iron Heart, which saw to the introduction of Mephisto, played by Sacha Baron Cohen Baron, means that they really want to lean into it. It's unfortunate that that of Mahershala Ali's character have never taken off. Hopefully, maybe at the right time, it should be able to garner enough steam to make that happen. But I think more than the more indication of a film that he may likely direct would be Blade, I think. I'm only assuming because if you take a look at all the films that he's directed, aside the ones that he's produced, but the ones that he's directed in particular, from um, Get Out to S to Nope, all the leading characters are of the African American demographics or black. So it is more likely that if Jordan Peele would direct a potential movie, I don't know for sure whether Moon Knight may be the one. However, if you ever watch the Marvel Zombies, the Moon Knight character was teased in it, but it was more or less like an they call him Blade Knight, so an amalgamation of the Blade character with Moon Knight possessing the powers of Khonshu or Moon Knight. So I don't know whether that's the version they'll be going for, and the the contract that was it called Oscar Isaac signed for was mainly for the TV side of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. However, I'm sure he would be introduced to the what's it called the main MCU if he chooses to return. So that is something that we are all looking forward to potentially have them do a movie within that space. And I think it will be quite interesting to see from the looks of things how things are going in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It is highly possible that they may be entertaining a Midnight Suns movie, and there's an artwork done on the Reddit that features, some of the key characters who have been part and parcel of the Midnight Suns, and there's been a whole different roster of different characters that are featured in the Midnight Suns group. But I think potentially these are the main characters who perhaps dominate the Midnight Suns storylines, and it will be quite interesting to see them happen. And we all know that Blade was only but teased in Eternals, but since then the movie has never taken off. Even though we've had Michael Green, the writer of uh, who is said to have written Blade, also potentially coming aboard to write the um, Moon Knight character for a film. So it'll be quite interesting to see how that will pan out, and particularly if they are pleased with the script and he's done a great job of it, then potentially we are likely to have the Midnight Suns connects of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, come alive. But the interesting part of it all is the fact that soon enough they're going to have Doctor Doom coming aboard as the major villain, the major or the arch villain for the entire cinematic universe. And he doubles in magic, doubles in sorcery, doubles in technology and everything. So no holds bar for anybody who would want to oppose him from any front. He is determined to floor anybody who would come against him. So potentially, if that's the angle they are going in, I'm sure I won't be surprised that Marvel springs a surprise movie on us in between, what's it called, Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret War. So it'll be quite interesting to introduce the dark side of the cinematic universe into the fray before Secret Wars and unleash the entire force of the Marvel Cinematic Universe onto the the arch villain Doctor Doom. So it'll be quite interesting to see how all that pans out. And personally, I wouldn't be mad. I would be so excited to have Jordan Peele, take on a property within the Marvel Cinematic Universe or within the bigger studio franchise. And the only challenge or downside to it all is whether he'll be willing to play within the sandbox of the Marvel Cinematic Universe and not want to have a full carte blanche in how he wants the directions to go. Definitely, he would contribute his artistic merits to the film, but at the end of the day, whatever direction he chooses to go in must fit within the entire structure of the Marvel Cinematic Universe that Kevin Feige has built from day one. So it'll be quite interesting to see. And honestly, I'll be excited to have them play in the same sandbox as some of the great directors like Ryan Coogler and others. So personally, I'm excited about this. I don't know about you. Do you think Jordan Peele is the right director for the Moon Knight property, or do you think a solo movie or a Midnight Suns team up would be perhaps the ideal property for him to direct? I personally, I wouldn't be mad if Kevin Feige gives him a little bit more control to shepherd the entire corner of the Midnight Suns universe, but still well connected into the big cinematic universe. Whatever your thoughts may be, kindly leave it in the comments section below. So moving on from the Midnight Suns property, we now come to my home country, my home country, Ghana, where all indications points to a very indeed not the very best of a movie year, but actually a potentially good year where there's been streaming of such great films, about 26 films, from the Fisherman movie, of which I had a privilege and opportunity to be part and parcel of the production, and also to films like The Funeral of Kwade and so many more. The Last Stop, I mean, Vibes, and so many more. So, from an article published by by Tony Ansankuma, Ghana's movie critic, he did compile a list of all Ghanaian films that were screened over the entire 2025 year calendar. And I thought it's such a nice article to sort of go over the entire films that I've screened so far in this year. So I'll leave the link in the description below if you want to take a quick look as to all the films that I've screened over the entire period of 2025. So let's delve into it right away. So how is Ghanaian cinema doing? Let's take a look at the 2025 Ghana Cinema Annual Report. And this is published by Nana Obrimpong Barima under the GH Movie Freak. So the year 2025 marked a significant period of activity for the Ghanaian film industry, showcasing a diverse array of stories intended to captivate local cinema lovers. This year has seen approximately 36 theatrical releases, so it's 36, not 26, pardon me, which is more than the turnouts for 2024. The 2025 calendar maintained this momentum with a consistent stream of premieres starting as early as January 2nd, with a number of releases peaking in December. It is safe to say that the industry is determined to reclaim its space on the big screen, supported by a network of key cinema venues including Silverbird, Golden Eagle, Ozone, and Royal View Cinemas, all of which are playing their part in helping to revive and sustain cinema culture. So let's take a look at the list of the 2025 theatrical releases below. You can also download them with GHR. So they've compiled it into a nice PDF that you can keep for yourself. So these are the list of all 36 films that showcased over the period of 2025. So starting with one, we have Poisonous Affair. So in the month of January, we only have one movie premiering, screening, Poisonous Affair, which released on 25th January 2025. And amazingly, the last one on the list is also premiered on the 25th December 2025. That is the Funeral of Kwade. But let's go through the list quickly. Young Love, 1st February. A Country Called Ghana, 28th February, which was a re-release. Omo Ghana, Man for Chop, 28th February. Last Stop, 28th March 2025. In between, 5th April. A Letter to God, 18th April. Asantewa, 21st April. Tales of Shades, 2nd May. What Do Men Really Want, 31st May. Campus Crash, 14th June. Let me just rush through the rest because there's quite a long list. So, Crossing Paths, Elubo, Crossing Paths, Elubo all screened in the June. Elubo, Boss Chick, Elubo and Boss Chick screened June and July. Pimp's Paradise, Captain Ibrahim Traore, A Kiss Too Late, and Behind the Pulpit, Legacy Africa all screened in August. So we move on to September releases, and we had Clouds, Queens of the Garage, The Fisherman, Broken Peace, Yarrow, Broken Peace, all screened in September. So for the October releases, we have Yarrow Vibes, and then Pangs of the Heart, 24, all screened in October. In November, we have King of Tema, Trust in Jehovah, Stitches, all screened in November. And the last but not the least, in the December releases are Radio, Heroes Ride, The Dwarf Billionaires, I Can't Love Another, Christmas to Remember, and The Funeral of Quade. So that is quite a number of films, perhaps the highest in recent times to have screened in the cinemas. It doesn't mean that these are just the films that actually released this year, but in terms of theatrical releases, that's the cinema releases, these are the films that made it to the cinemas for audiences at large to visit and watch. And that is quite exciting. And some of these films have gone on to win awards at film festivals and all that. So it's unfortunate that when it comes to screening in Ghana, the longevity of films in the cinemas is not that long because you don't have a lot of patronage sustained throughout the week. So the theatrical windows for most of these films do not last even more than 3 weeks. And that is quite sad. But it's better, at least we are having more of these films showing up day in and day out. And I'm hoping that next year, among all these 36 films, there would be more films, but hopefully they would be able to stay long in the cinemas with people attending in their numbers. So that is our hope for next year. And we are hoping that the film industry grow on the back of these wonderful filmmakers who are making these films. So let's do well to support. As well as there are still some films in the cinemas right now that you can go from the November releases. So you can do your best to go and watch them. The Funeral of Quade is actually still in the cinema. It was just released on the 25th of December. So if you're in the holiday spirit and want to entertain yourself, just go to the cinema and watch that film as well. And I'm sure you'll be entertained. And Emma Newton Alevi, whom I worked with, had opportunity to direct her film, is the producer also behind this particular production as well. So do your best to let's go support a filmmaker to make this film a hit before the season or the year rounds up. So there you have it, the 2025 cinema releases on Ghana for this year. Let me know what kind of stories from this growing film industry from Ghana is much entertaining to you, and most you are most interested in seeing on the international streaming platforms or even international cinemas. Whatever your thoughts may be, kind of leave it in the comment section below. So we now move on to the last story, but not the least. It is not so many people have that power to draw a lot of audiences to the cinemas and potentially be able to plant their flags in the month and say that this is their month and this is the month that they're going to be successfully churning out movies. Well, one such person was Will Smith, who was called Mr. 4th of July. And it looks like we now have another, movie star who is planting his flag in terms of box office successes for his films. It's none other than Timothée Chalamet with his film Marty Supreme. And Marty Supreme indeed has proven to be such a box office draw for him that in just this few days that it's been in the cinemas, it's garnered $27 million, and that is really really good for him as a movie star. And indeed, I'm excited for him. But let's take a quick look as to the number of films that he has released within that particular cinema window and is garnering such success for him. And let's quickly, so let's read this article from the Variety. Pardon me, I failed to mention the first article I read from, which had Jordan Peele directing, or potential, a rumor of Jordan Peele having met MCU to potentially direct Moon Knight, and that article was published in the Fandom Wire. So pardon me if I didn't say that, you can go back and watch that entire section. So Marty Supreme cements Timothée Chalamet as king of the Christmas box office. Let me just jump quickly through to this side of the article. So seemingly every year, Timothy has a major hit during the important holiday movie-going corridor, notes Comscore's head of marketplace trends. For the Garabedian, pardon me, I hope I didn't butcher the name. So no matter the genre, whether it's a musical biopic, so whether it's a musical, biopic, sci-fi, or comedy, his choice in the material and collaborators has made him not only a bona fide movie star, but a box office draw. So it goes on to say that Marty Supreme confirms Chalamet's status as the kind of actor whose name alone can sell a movie ticket. It's a rare distinction these days, especially to have a star be synonymous with a season for moviegoing. The most recent example is probably Will Smith, who used to be known as Mr. 4th of July, starting with the 1996 Independence Day, several of Smith's biggest blockbusters, 1997's Men in Black, 2002's Men in Black 2, and 2008's Hancock, among them, were released in theaters during the 4th of July. So it is quite indeed interesting. So some of the films that obviously Marty Supreme or Timothée Chalamet has been a dominant force within that December window has been Wonka, which went on to make quite a huge splash in the box office, in that box office window. And obviously, other films of his is pardon me, Bob Dylan's biopic, Complete Unknown, and now Martin Supreme. And then next year, we'll be having Dune Part 3 with Denis Villeneuve, released on December 18th. So it very much looks like Chalamet indeed is becoming the box office king for the holiday season, the Christmas season, and indeed it's quite exciting to see. Hopefully, we'll get to see whether he's going to really break that streak. I mean, continue that streak, which seems highly possible because obviously, when it comes to Denis Villeneuve's film, it's been doing much better and better with time. Dune 2 did marvelously well than Dune 1. And obviously, when it's finally released, which wouldn't be contending, well, it would contend with Avengers, I must say, within that holiday season. But it's possible for both of them to do well, almost synonymous to Barbenheimer, where Barbie and Oppenheimer performed, but not within that box office window. They performed during the, I think, the summer box office, if I'm not mistaken. So it is interesting to see that Timothée Chalamet is doing that well, and deservedly so because he's such a powerhouse of an actor. I mean, one of the youngest actors that you can perhaps in the near future you can name him among the Daniel Day-Lewis's, the Denzel Washingtons, and all the mighty greats in the Hollywood film industry. So let me know what you think. Are you surprised by the staying power of Marty Supreme? And what does a film like this screening succeeding tell you about the current audience taste in movies, particularly within this Hollywood holiday season? Whatever your thoughts may be, kindly leave it in the comments section below. And talking about box office draws, you know that today is a Monday, even though it's been a while since I came, I brought these Hollywood, I mean, news to you. Well, we'll be taking a look at the top performing box office movies over the weekend. And then let's start with the North American box office. And then starting with the North American box office, we have, so we have at number one, we have the Avatar Fire and Ash, which has retained the box office title since it was released last week. Or was it last week or last 2 weeks? And it grossed $64 million with the total domestic gross in the North American box office being 217,693,465. And number two, and number two, and shooting up from number five, it doesn't seem that it's going out without a fight, is Zootopia 2, which has grossed $20 million, obviously because of the holidays, with a lot of kids going to the cinema and family going to the cinema to watch these films. So it is grossed $20 million and now has a domestic total of 321,381,406. And number three, jumping from number nine, is just a story we're talking about, the Timothée Chalamet starrer Marty Supreme, which has made $15,597,850 with a total domestic of $28,291,996. And number four, dropping from three, is The Housemaid. I think it stars Sydney Sweeney. Pardon me if I didn't get the name right. And it has made $15.4 million and culminating in a total domestic of $46,460,000. And number five, releasing for the first time, is the Paul Rudd and Jack Black collaboration in Anaconda, which has made $14,550,000 and a total domestic of $23,650,000. And number six, dropping from number two, is David. And David has made $12,691,811 and a total domestic cum of $49,753,130. And number seven, dropping from number four, is the SpongeBob movie Search for SquarePants, making $11.2 million and a total domestic of $33,175,551. Number eight is Song Sang Blue, which has made $7.6 million and a total domestic of $12,025,455. And number nine, dropping from number seven, is Wicked for Good, making $5,260,000 and a total domestic of $331,623,190. And number 10, dropping from number six, is Five Nights at Freddy's, making $4.4 million and a total domestic of $118,969,215. So this sums up my total, just the top 10. I'll leave the entire link. I'll leave the link in the description below so that if you want to take a look at the entire domestic run, you can do so for the North American box office. So now moving on from the North American box office, we'll quickly jump to the international box office, and we'll just take a look at the top 10. There's a whole lot, but you can take a look at it yourself when I leave it in the comment section below. And obviously, Niza 2 is still occupying the first position, and number two still occupied by Zootopia. It doesn't look like much has changed apart from Avatar Fire and Ash, who is climbing up the chart, and now it's at number 6. But all the other films seems to have been occupying the same spot as last week, and therefore we'll move on to so number one is Nizatu, and then number 10 will be Superman. Obviously, with the way some of the movies are ramping up support, it may look like Superman may drop from the top 10. But so far, it looks like Avatar is the one that is shooting up the stars with the high potential possibility of even occupying number one come January. It depends on how much of a legs it's going to have over the period of time. So all too soon, I bring this episode to an end, and thanks so much for joining me for this exciting episode of the Film Mandate. I hope you enjoyed yourself, and I'm excited to bring to you stories, movie stories from around the world, particularly in the last year of 2025, which happens to also be in the last week of 2025, which happens to be the first week of 2026. So what a joy to be crossing over to the new year with you, talking about the things we love the most, and that is movies from around the world. So thanks so much for joining me. My name is Papa Otu. And this has been the Film Mandate. I'll see you soon tomorrow with another exciting stories from around the world. Bye bye.